thunder effects evoke sacred memory, prophecy, and ancestral return. Mystical.
They said the gods would sleep, but not forever.
And ancestral return.
The drums would return. The earth would tremble. And the children of the ancestors would feel the call in their bones. That time may be now. Across deserts and forests, through carved stones and whispered songs, there are stories passed down, not of endings, but of return. Stories that speak not only of deities and ancestors, but of doors reopening, of veils thinning, of forgotten names stirring again in the dreams of the living. These stories were never just entertainment. They were maps, codes, prophecies waiting for their time. And some say that time has begun. What if the gods of Africa were never myths, but memories? What if they were not lost, but hidden, encoded in rituals, encrypted in proverbs, and waiting patiently in bloodlines for the world to tilt just right? From the Zulu highlands to the Yoruba temples, from Igbo shrines to the stargazing Dogon, these cultures each hold a piece of the cosmic puzzle. Each speaks of beings who once walked among us, departed in shadow, and promised to return when the earth was out of balance. Each warns that silence is not absence, and that sleep is not death. The Zulu tell of sky beings and watchers of fire. The Yoruba speak of Orisha, who ride lightning and pour rivers of grace. The Igbo remember the Chi, the personal god within, and the return of spirit warriors who will restore Ofo and Ogu, truth and justice. The Dogon gaze to the stars, guarding the sacred memory of the Nommo, amphibious judges who came from Sirius and will one day return with cleansing rains. These stories may sound distant, even fantastical, but what if they are not fiction? What if they are time capsules? Everywhere now signs are multiplying. Earthquakes cracking long silent lands. Floods washing away concrete kingdoms. People dreaming in languages they've never learned. Children speaking to ancestors no one remembers. The drums are returning, not only in rituals, but in hearts, in songs, in spontaneous awakenings. Something is stirring, something ancient, something divine. So we ask again, are they returning? And if so, what does it mean for us, the children of those who never forgot? This is the prophecy of return, the call of the old gods, and their story is only just beginning. Credo Mutwa, the late Zulu High Sanusi, keeper of sacred knowledge and one of the most powerful African mystics of the modern era, once said that we have misunderstood mythology. He insisted that what the Western mind called myth was, in truth, ancestral memory. To him, the stories passed down through Zulu oral tradition were not fictional, but encoded truth. Events seen by the eyes of the old ones and preserved through generations as spiritual technology. At the heart of his revelations was a persistent, haunting prophecy. The sky people will return. In Zulu cosmology, the sky was never empty. It was a realm of divine activity, of light beings and cosmic watchers who once descended to earth in vessels of flame and sound. These beings, known by many names but often associated with Unkulunkulu, the great primordial creator, were said to have come during the dawn of time, not merely to observe but to teach, to build, to awaken. They brought laws, healing arts, and star knowledge. And then they departed. Not because they had abandoned humanity, but because humanity had fallen out of rhythm with the sacred. Credo Mutwa recounted visions and teachings from his initiations that warned of a great forgetting, a time when the people would lose their language of the stars, their drums would go silent, and the sacred rituals would fall into shadow. That time, he said, came with colonization, industrialization, and spiritual disconnection. But the prophecy was never about despair. It was about cycles, about return. When the imbalance on earth grew unbearable, when greed replaced reciprocity, when the sacred rivers were poisoned, when children could no longer name their ancestors, the sky people would begin to stir. The return, however, would not be like the past. It would begin not with fire in the sky, but with whispers, with dreams. Credo warned that people would begin to receive visitations in sleep. Strange symbols, unknown languages, a feeling of deep knowing they couldn't explain. They would begin to see visions of fire that cleanses rather than destroys. Lightning would strike in odd patterns. Weather would shift without reason. In some villages, entire communities would awaken on the same night, claiming they all dreamt of drums beating beneath the ground. The lightning rituals of the Zulu are especially sacred. Lightning is not seen as random electricity. It is divine communication. During ancient rites, chosen individuals would go into trance under stormy skies, believing they were calling or receiving messages from the sky gods. Mutwa believed that in times of great imbalance, lightning would increase, not to punish, but to awaken. He pointed to sudden, unexplainable storms in sacred sites, bolts hitting the same trees for generations, and thunder that seemed to echo in patterns as if speaking in code. And indeed, across parts of southern Africa, people have begun reporting such events, children dreaming of lights descending, elders feeling the return of the ancestral ones in their bones, sacred sites glowing at night. Even the land seems to react. Rivers flooding, mountains humming, wind speaking in voices that aren't quite wind. Some claim to hear songs they've never learned come out of their mouths in moments of stillness. Credo said this would happen, that the body, like the earth, remembers before the mind does. To dismiss these signs is to miss the deeper rhythm of prophecy. The Zulu tradition never claimed the gods were gone forever. It claimed they would return when we remembered how to listen, when we learned to balance the earth and sky within us. And that return, said Credo Mutwa with unshakable certainty, would begin softly, not with war, but with awakening. And perhaps, just perhaps, that awakening has already begun. In Yoruba cosmology, time moves not in a straight line but in a cycle, a sacred loop of forgetting and remembering, of fall and return. The orishas, divine archetypes and forces of nature, do not simply belong to the past. They are recurring presences, rising and retreating in rhythm with humanity's spiritual alignment. They are not static deities in a forgotten pantheon. They are alive, watching, waiting, returning through storm and song, dream and dance, wherever the sacred is remembered. And many believe we are now in the season of the rising once more. The orishas are countless, but among them Shango and Oshun are two of the most powerful messengers of return. Shango, the orisha of thunder, lightning, fire and justice, is not just a symbol of power. He is the sound of divine authority cracking through illusion. When thunder rolls unexpectedly or lightning splits the sky in ceremonial places, many Yoruba elders believe Shango is speaking. In myth, Shango does not die. He transforms into pure energy, watching from above, waiting for a world out of balance so he can descend again. As storms grow more frequent and wildfires rage across lands where his name was never even spoken, some believe Shango is stirring. Ocean, by contrast, is the sweet, flowing force of love, fertility, beauty, and sacred rivers. But sweetness does not mean passivity. Ocean also holds the power to cleanse, to flood, to rebirth. Her return is often seen through the waters, rivers changing course, floods overtaking cities, and dreams soaked in gold and honey. In Yoruba tradition, when balance is lost, ocean brings fertility back to barren lands, both literal and spiritual. She rises when the world forgets softness, harmony, and care. In a time where ecological and emotional drought threatens humanity, the signs of ocean's return ripple across continents. Not just in nature, but in the hearts of those reclaiming her rituals, songs, and shrines. These returns are not random. They are part of a larger prophetic cycle mapped out in the sacred divination system of Ifa. Through the sacred verses known as Odu Ifa, priests called Babalawo access the coded blueprint of the cosmos. These verses not only diagnose spiritual ailments, but foretell the timing of divine movements. Many Odus speak of the Orishas returning when humanity reaches a crossroads, when imbalance becomes unbearable, and when the children of Africa, scattered across oceans, begin to remember who they are. According to Ifa, the return is not a single event. It is a wave, a rhythm, a prophecy unfolding. And unfold it has. Across the African diaspora, from Brazil to Trinidad, from Cuba to the United States, Orisha worship is undergoing a quiet explosion. Santerie, Candomblé, Lukumi, and Ifa, initiation houses are swelling with new seekers, not just out of curiosity, but out of deep ancestral yearning. Shrines once hidden in closets are now being built in open air. Drums once silenced by fear are beating again in public spaces. Names once changed by force are being reclaimed with reverence. Children are being named after the Orisha Agan, Sango, Yemaya, Orunmila, not as nostalgia but as spiritual alignment. This revival is not only cultural, it is mystical. Dreams of Orisha visitations are increasing. People report being called by deities they've never studied, dancing in trances they never practiced, and weeping at rivers they've never known. Elders in the Diaspora speak of a pulse, a stirring that echoes the call of the ancestors and the return of cosmic balance. In ceremonies, diviners increasingly speak of prophecy fulfilled, that the children scattered by slavery and empire would one day rise in sacred rhythm again, and the Orishas would meet them halfway. To the Yoruba, the Orishas never truly leave. They retreat, waiting for us to remember the songs, the offerings, the sacred patterns that bring them near. And now, through thunder and water, fire and rhythm, prophecy and diaspora, they are rising again, not from myth, but from memory. The return is not in the future. It is here. It is now. It is us. In the heart of Igbo land lies a spiritual system as intricate and powerful as any sacred code, Odinani. It is not simply a belief system, but a cosmic architecture. It defines the laws that govern existence, the structure of spirit and matter, and the relationship between the divine and the human. According to ancient Igbo prophecies held within this sacred knowledge, there would come a time when the descendants of the ancestors would awaken again. The Chi, the personal spark of the divine, the guiding soul within each person, would begin to stir, not one by one, but in waves. Spirit warriors would rise, not with weapons, but with memory. These spirit warriors, as prophesied, are not soldiers in the literal sense. They are guardians of balance, carriers of cosmic truth, and protectors of sacred law. Before their return could unfold, Odinani teaches that the twin principles of Ofo and Ogu must be restored. Ofo represents divine truth, objective, unchanging, aligned with cosmic order. Ogu is the embodiment of personal righteousness, living in harmony with one's chi and in justice with the world. When Ofo and Ogu are broken, disorder follows. But when they are aligned, the spiritual portal opens and the gods, known and hidden, begin their return. In recent years, whispers of disalignment have grown louder. Across Igbo communities and beyond, people report mass dreams, visions of elders in white garments, of ancestral villages reappearing in vivid detail, of sacred trees calling names long forgotten. Some speak of being visited in sleep by unknown relatives who speak in proverbs. Others awaken with a sudden knowing that they must go to a river, climb a hill, light a fire, even though they were never taught these rituals. These are not isolated stories. They are signals synchronizing across continents and generations. Ancestral visitations are increasing, not only in dreams, but in waking life. Through symbols, uncanny synchronicities, or powerful emotional surges at sacred places. In markets, strangers speak words that echo family histories. In shrines once abandoned, children cry out names no one taught them. These are signs, many say, that the gods are calling their own back to center, that the chi within is activating and the ancestral contract is being reopened. Names in Igbo culture have always been more than identification. They are prophecies, spoken declarations of divine timing and soul assignment. A name like Chukwuemeka, God has done something great, is not simply a celebration of birth, but a spiritual reminder that divine action is unfolding. Nkiruka means the best is still to come, a constant affirmation of forward motion and divine timing. Ifechukwu, light of God, is a luminous signal, a soul map encoded in sound. These names, when spoken repeatedly, activate memory. They tether the speaker to their chi and subtly align them with destiny. Now more than ever, these names are returning. Parents are rejecting colonial replacements and reclaiming prophetic naming traditions. Ceremonies are being restored where elders speak a child's name into the wind and into the earth, calling on ancestors to walk with them. Some are even renaming themselves as a form of spiritual reawakening, discarding inherited identities and adopting names that resonate with their soul's original vibration. To the Igbo, the world is not static. It is code, and the spirit writes in symbols, not ink. The return of the gods is not about a sky-breaking moment, but about a spiritual sequence being activated from within. As Ofo and Ogu realign, as dreams intensify and names resurface, the prophecy unfolds. The hidden ones are not coming. They are already here, awakening through us. The question is not whether the gods will return. The question is whether we will recognize them. Not in the temples above, but in the mirror, in the drumbeat of our hearts, in the chi rising within. High in the cliffs of Mali, nestled within the ancient rhythm of stone villages and desert wind, lives one of the most mysterious cosmologies on earth, that of the Dogon people. Their traditions are not just rooted in land, but in stars. Dogon cosmology speaks of galaxies, orbital paths, and celestial knowledge that baffles even modern astrophysicists. Central to their mythos is a star known as Sirius B, a white dwarf companion to the bright Sirius A, invisible to the naked eye and only discovered by Western science in the 20th century. And yet, the Dogon have known of its existence for centuries, passed down through oral transmission, ritual, and and sacred geometry. This knowledge did not come from telescopes. It came, they say, from the Nommo. The Nommo, according to Dogon cosmology, are amphibious, water-based celestial beings sent from Sirius. They are not gods in the Western sense, but divine messengers, beings of light, balance, and cosmic law. The elders describe them as teachers who descended to earth during the first time, bringing sacred knowledge, language, agriculture, metallurgy, and spiritual codes. The Nommo came in a vessel that spun and roared, landing in water with a sound like thunder, not unlike many accounts of divine descent in other traditions. After completing their mission, they returned to the stars but promised to come again, not to teach, but to judge, to restore what had fallen out of alignment. This prophecy, the return of the Nommo, is a cornerstone of Dogon spiritual technology. The Nommo are not simply remembered, they are expected. Elders say that before their return, there will be signs, a great disorientation among humans, climatic imbalance, the rising of water, and the reawakening of the Sirius code in the minds of certain bloodlines. The Nommo are cosmic judges, not with wrath, but with restoration. With their return signals a reckoning, not in the sense of punishment, but of realignment. They carry galactic memory, the original templates of divine order, and their presence activates dormant frequencies on Earth and within the human spirit. Among the Dogon, every ritual, dance, and carved symbol is connected to this stellar blueprint. The knowledge is layered, outer teachings for the public, and inner esoteric codes shared only with initiated elders. These teachings link human destiny to the stars, suggesting that Earth is part of a larger interstellar network. The soul, according to Dogon thought, carries astral DNA, encoded memory from the cosmos that can be activated through ritual, sound, and alignment with the sacred calendar. In this view, ancestors are not simply the dead. They are interdimensional travelers who carry memory between realms. The Nommo prophecy speaks directly to our time. As sea levels rise and waters encroach on cities, as chaos grows and spiritual amnesia deepens, some believe the conditions for their return are being met. People across the African diaspora report dreams of water beings, encounters with luminous entities, and an intuitive pull towards Sirius, a star many have never studied but feel drawn to. In meditation, some claim to hear watery voices or see glyphs they later discover resemble Dogon symbols. These are not coincidences, the elders say. These are activations. Astral DNA is not a metaphor. It is a spiritual framework. According to Dogon teachings, there are certain people, scattered across the globe, many unaware of their connection, who carry codes from the first time. These individuals are waking up now, experiencing a hunger for knowledge they cannot explain, a call to sacred sites, and visions of ancestors not from earth, but from water and sky. The Nommo are not coming as invaders or saviors. They are coming as reminders of who we are, where we came from, and what we are meant to become. The Dogon prophecy is not only about the return of the gods. It is about the return of memory, a cosmic memory etched into the bones of the earth, the waters of the body, and the spirals of DNA. The question is not whether the Nommo are real. The question is whether we will be ready to remember when they arrive, or whether we already are. The earth is speaking, and not with gentle whispers, but with thunder beneath the soil, waves swallowing coastlines, and flames licking the sky from ancient volcanic mouths. In cultures across Africa and the Diaspora, it is believed that before the gods return, before the ancestors rise, the earth itself will signal. Earthquakes that crack lands untouched for centuries, floods that erase maps, volcanic rumblings that awaken mountains once thought extinct. These are not random acts of nature. They are the drumbeats of prophecy, the earth responding to imbalance, and the signs, many believe, that the old powers are beginning to stir. We live in a time of increasing natural upheaval. The ground shakes in places it never has. Storms grow stronger and more unpredictable. Water moves like a restless spirit, reclaiming space, cleansing memory. In Yoruba cosmology, this is ocean calling. In Zulu prophecy, it is the thunderer Shango preparing to descend. In Dogon lore, it is the element of water signaling the approach of the Nommo. In Igbo thought, it is Allah, the earth goddess, rising in unrest because her children have forgotten the sacred contract. These disturbances are not merely geological, they are spiritual. The earth is alive, aware, and ancestral. And she is rumbling not in rage, but in wakefulness. But the signs are not only external. They are appearing within the body, within the dream, within the DNA. More and more people are reporting drumming in their dreams. Ancient rhythms pulsing through their sleep, calling them to move, to remember, to awaken. Some hear chants in unknown languages. Others wake up weeping, hearts racing with the sense that someone or something was speaking to them. These are not isolated dreams. They are forming a pattern, a rhythm across time zones and bloodlines. Many speak of spirit visitations, ancestors standing at their bedside, long-dead relatives offering warnings, blessings, or strange tasks. Ancestral possession, once feared or dismissed, is returning as a sacred phenomenon. In ceremonies across the Diaspora, in Haitian Voodoo, Cuban Santeria, Brazilian Candomblé, and newly emerging African spiritual spaces, people are entering trance states without being trained, without even knowing what trance is. They move like the gods, speak in ancestral tongues, and weep for ancestors they've never met. These events are no longer rare. They are multiplying. And for many, it is the clearest sign that the veil is thinning, that the divine is no longer waiting. This awakening is also happening at the genetic level. What some call DNA activation is being described by those experiencing sudden intuitive gifts, healing abilities, and ancient knowledge returning to them unprovoked. People are remembering rituals, songs, prayers, and symbols they've never been taught. Children are speaking words their parents don't understand, but elders recognize. Young adults, previously disconnected from their heritage, are suddenly pulled toward traditional spirituality, inexplicably craving the drum, the fire, the river. This is not a random interest. This is cellular memory reawakening. The spiritual code written into blood and bone activating under the right conditions. In Africa and across its diaspora, this resurgence is visible in the rise of shrine building, ancestral honoring, and ritual performance by youth who grew up without these practices. In Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, and the Ivory Coast, young people are leaving churches and mosques in search of the gods of their ancestors. They are finding babalawos, sangomas, dibias, and griots. They are learning chants, pouring libations, tracing symbols in the sand. Social media, often a tool of disconnection, is now a portal of remembrance. Videos of ancestral dances, rituals, and drumming ceremonies are being shared, studied, and replicated. Not just for trend, but for truth. Chants once forgotten are being sung again in inner city apartments, forest clearings, and seaside gatherings. Dances that were outlawed by colonial rule are now performed in festivals and sacred circles. Young people are organizing naming ceremonies, spiritual cleansings, and ancestral feasts without waiting for permission from older generations. They are not just reviving culture, they are fulfilling prophecy, because the return was never going to come from temples alone. It was always going to come from the ones who remembered, even if they never knew they knew. The earth is responding to this shift. Sacred sites long buried are being unearthed. Forests are whispering to those who know how to listen. Animals, symbols, and synchronicities are guiding people back to the sacred. And in the middle of all of this, a deeper question is forming in the hearts of many. What if the return is not coming from the sky, but from within? What if the gods are not descending, but awakening in us? This is the heartbeat of prophecy. The old ones said that when the world grew too loud with forgetfulness, the gods would move again. Not through lightning bolts or burning bushes, but through blood, breath, and remembering. And now, as the earth trembles, as the drums echo through dreams, and as the youth rediscover their sacred fire, the message is clear. They are returning. The question is, will we be ready? Not to watch, but to rise with them. They said the gods would sleep, but not forever. That the drums would go silent, the rivers would dry, and the names would fade from memory. But not forever. The earth would shake, the dreams would return, and the children of the ancestors would feel the call in their bones. That time many believe is not coming. It is here. Across lands and lifetimes, through song and fire, the prophecies have spoken of this moment. A time when the divine would not descend from the clouds, but rise from within. When the gods would not arrive on golden chariots, but awaken in gestures, memories, and breath. What if this return is not a spectacle to be witnessed, but a code to be activated in us? What if the gods are not coming to save us, but to become us? Not as egos, but as vessels of alignment, of justice, of sacred remembering. This is not about looking back to a distant past. This is about realigning with the truth that has always been waiting, buried in the soil of our bodies, etched in the rhythm of our hearts. We are the temples. We are the ritual. We are the threshold between the forgotten and the fulfilled. To remember is not to retreat. It is to reignite. To realign is to restore what was stolen. To reawaken is to hear the call and respond not with fear, but with fire. So if your dreams have felt strange lately, if your heart beats a little faster when you hear the drum, if your name suddenly feels heavier, this message is for you. The gods may already be speaking through your tears, your hunger, your unexplainable pull towards something ancient. You're not broken. You are remembering. Like this video if your spirit stirred, even just a little. Comment with what you're feeling, dreaming, or remembering. Subscribe for more paths into the sacred. And if you feel the call, truly feel it, share this. Let it ripple. Let it reach. Because the gods may already be listening. And perhaps they are listening through you.